Hello, first grade. Today we are going to read the story, The Three Types of Rocks. Our learning targets are to review how heat, pressure, and time affect the earth, identify three types of rocks, demonstrate an understanding of the word sediments, and use a graphic organizer to describe the three types of rocks. Our key vocabulary are igneous rock, metamorphic rock, or sedimentary rock, and sediments. Igneous rock. Igneous rock is a type of rock that forms when magma cools, hardens, and turns solid. Obsidian and granite are two types of igneous rock. Metamorphic rock. Metamorphic rock is a type of rock that forms when intense heat and pressure change igneous and sedimentary rocks into new rocks. Marble is a metamorphic rock formed from limestone, a sedimentary rock. Ore. Ore is a rock that contains valuable minerals or metals. Iron ore is one of the most important types of ore in the world. Sedimentary rock. Sedimentary rock is a type of rock that forms from layers of sediments pressed together. Coal is a type of sedimentary rock used as an energy source. So if someone says that you're going to get coal in your stocking, they're saying you're going to get a type of sedimentary rock in your stocking. Sediments. Sediments are little tiny pieces of dirt and rock that are moved by wind, ice, water, or landslides. Sediments settled at the bottom of the swimming pool. Okay, who remembers our three important geology words? They had hand motions. We had heat, pressure, and time. Now you do it. Heat, pressure, time. How do heat, pressure, and time affect volcanoes? What does the heat do in a volcano? It makes the magma hot. What about the pressure? What do we know about volcanoes and pressure? Pressure forces magma to move and causes the volcanoes to erupt. And what about time? What does time have to do with volcanoes? It takes a long time for magma to reach the surface of the earth. All right, how about heat, pressure, and time affecting geysers? What does heat do for geysers? Heat makes the magma hot, yeah. What about pressure? Pressure builds when the water seeps in and touches the hot rocks. And what about time? It takes time for that pressure to cause the geyser to release steam and water. What about the layers of the earth? What happens with heat, the layers of the earth? As we get closer to the core, what happens to the heat? It's hotter, right? And what about pressure? What does pressure do with the earth? Think about the very, very center of the earth. All that pressure makes the middle a solid, right? And how about time? Over time, rocks on the Earth's surface have changed, right? And we can learn about the Earth by studying the rocks. So all rocks can be sorted into three categories because of how they are made through heat, pressure, and time. Okay, so they can be sorted into three categories. Remember, our key vocabulary are igneous rock, metamorphic rock, or sedimentary rock and sediments. Actions for categories. So, For igneous rock, anytime that I talk about igneous rock, remember igneous rock is a type of rock that comes from magma when it cools, hardens, and turns solid. So the hand motion for that is you're going to hold up your pointer finger and you're going to go to show that you're blowing out the flame to demonstrate the heat of the fire. Because remember, it said that the igneous rock comes from lava that gets cooled down. So think about lava is hot, so you got your fire, and then you're going to blow it out, because when that lava or when that magma cools, it becomes igneous rock. Okay, so igneous rock. Say it with me. Igneous rock. Okay, sedimentary rock. Remember, if we go back, see, went too far. Sedimentary rock is the type of rock that forms from layers of sediments that are pressed together. Okay, and Emmy, stop. Sorry, the cat is doing something behind me, and it's weird on my back. Sedimentary rock, we are going to do this to show sedimentary rock, right? Because sedimentary rock is the layers of sediments that make rock, okay? And the pressure makes it into a rock. So we've got igneous rock. Do it with me. Ready? Igneous rock. Sedimentary rock. Okay, and then metamorphic rock looks like this, and it's a type of rock that forms when intense heat and pressure change igneous and sedimentary rocks into new rocks. So our hand signal, that's the word, hand signal for metamorphic rock is we're going to take this hand, we're going to take this hand, and we're going to, then we're going to squish them, kind of like our pressure hand motion, okay? So metamorphic rock. So when we're talking about the rocks, we have igneous rock, sedimentary rock, and metamorphic rock, okay? I want you to listen carefully to find out more about the three types of rocks and how they are formed, okay? Anytime that you hear any of those words, igneous rock, I want you to go. If you hear sedimentary rock, I want you to go. And if you hear metamorphic rock, I want you to go. Okay, and you can do the same thing for heat, pressure, and time. So if you hear heat, if you hear pressure, and if you hear time. All right. The right amount of heat can turn a solid rock into a metal the right amount of heat can turn a solid rock or metal into a liquid. What is the difference between solid rock and liquid rock? Solid rock is not going to change its shape, but liquid rock can take the shape of its surrounding. Pressure from the weight of the earth and movement of materials inside the earth can crush rocks. Over time, the effects of heat and pressure create the rock formations and other geologic phenomena that we find in the world. Working together, heat, pressure, and time create the three types of rocks that exist in the world. Every rock in the world can be placed into one of the three categories. The three types of rocks are igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. Try saying each of these rock types out loud. Igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. Okay, so what are my three types of rocks? What was that one called? Igneous, this one, sedimentary, and this one, metamorphic. The first rock type, igneous, is the most common. Remember, whenever you hear igneous rocks, hold up your finger like this, like it's a candle, and pretend to blow out the flame. Igneous rocks come in many forms. Some form entire mountains and some appear as boulders jutting from the earth. This picture shows a close-up of one type of igneous rock. This is a plain old gray rock that contains different types of minerals, and it hasn't always been a plain old gray rock. The word igneous comes from the Latin word for fire. Because igneous rocks began deep down in the heat of the Earth's mantle, sorry, I lost my place. So the word igneous sounds like the word ignite, which means to light something on fire. Both come from ignis, the Latin word for fire. Making connections between words and roots will help you learn more about words. And we've talked a little bit about that in skills. As you have heard, the Earth's mantle is full of a hot, gooey, oozing substance known as magma, or melted rock. The magma is constantly being forced toward the surface by pressure from within the Earth. As it travels upward from the mantle through the crust, the magma begins to cool and harden. Sometimes the magma will erupt from a volcano, but sometimes the conditions aren't quite right for an eruption. Over time, heat forms magma, and pressure moves magma. When the magma cools, it forms igneous rock. This formation is called Half Dome, and it is located in Yosemite National Park in California. When you look at Half Dome, you are looking at an old magma chamber. A magma chamber is a pocket or place in the Earth's crust where magma collects. As more magma enters the chamber, it gets hotter and pressure builds, and the magma can force its way up the surface into the form of a volcano. Or sometimes, as in the case of the Half Dome, the magma just gathers in the chamber and stays there without erupting. For whatever geologic reason, the heat and pressure did not get great enough or strong enough to force the magma through the crust and onto the surface in the form of lava. Instead, the magma cooled and hardened within the chamber. Over time, the rocks and soil around the chamber eroded away, leaving the beautiful Half Dome alone. Sticking high up above the Earth, Half Dome is certainly a big igneous rock. Okay, so if we look back at this picture, here we've got the outside, right? And then this is the magma chamber, the orange stuff. So what they're saying about Half Dome is that what had happened is instead of it, the pressure and the heat, so the pressure and the heat, remember, build up over time. But if they don't build up enough, they won't erupt. So for Half Dome, the pressure and the heat didn't build up strong enough. So this magma in the magma chamber kind of just solidified. It became solid, right? So it became igneous rock inside of the chamber. Then over time, over a long period of time, all of this extra stuff that wasn't in the magma chamber, it eroded, which was one of the words from a previous read aloud, and erode just means got taken away from water and wind and other kinds of weather, okay? So then all that was left was this solid magma, which is called igneous rock, okay? Let's see. Another type of igneous formation occurs when magma intrudes or pushes itself between two existing layers of rock. This means that not all the layers in this mountain were formed on top of one on top of another. Rather, some of the layers forced their way in between other rocks. You can kind of see the lines, right? So some of that was forced in between. This is my favorite type of igneous rock, obsidian, better known as volcanic glass. Volcanic glass forms when certain types of lava cool and harden, becoming smooth, shiny, and glass-like. Only certain types of lava, under certain conditions, become volcanic glass. Characteristics, which just mean ways that we can describe this, of volcanic gas are smooth, shiny, and glass-like. So that's how you would describe it. Characteristics are ways that you would describe something. Some Native Americans used volcanic glass to make arrowheads and spearheads. If you break a piece of volcanic glass, you will find that it is incredibly sharp and strong. Every now and then, I find ancient artifacts or objects made by people long ago, like this when I'm out rock hunting. Which type of rock have we learned about so far? Igneous, sedimentary, or metamorphic? Igneous. Don't forget to do your hand motions. Igneous. After igneous, the second major rock type is sedimentary. Remember, whenever you hear sedimentary rock, you're going to repeatedly place one flattened hand over another. Sedimentary rocks are not formed like igneous rocks, which form from cooled magma, right? In fact, heat does not play much of a role at all in the formation of sedimentary rocks. Instead, pressure and time are the most important factors in the formation of sedimentary rocks. So, of heat, pressure, and time, which two are the most important in forming sedimentary rocks? Pressure and time, right? They said that heat doesn't do much for this type of rock. The word sediments refers to tiny little particles such as dirt or rock, which are carried along in water, ice, wind, or landslides. Do you hear the word sediment and sedimentary? If you dump a spoonful of sand into a glass of water, for instance, you will see the sand gradually sink down and settle on the bottom of the glass, much in the same way that sediments settle on the bottoms of lakes and oceans. Here, sink means to drop below the surface of water. Okay? Sediments are always floating around in lakes, oceans, and rivers. Over time, sediments in lake water settle to form a thick sludge on the bottom of a lake. As more and more sediments settle on the bottom, more and more weight presses down on the sludge. Over time, the pressure from the weight of the upper sediments cause the sludge to harden into rock. Through time and pressure, layers of sediments are turned into sedimentary rock. Okay? So how are sedimentary rocks formed? When the sediments, which are small pieces of sand or dirt or even little rocks, they get pushed, they form a layer, right? And then more layers come and more layers come and more layers come. And over time, that pressure squeezes them into a rock. Coal is a type of sedimentary rock that comes from decayed plants that have been under pressure for many years. Decayed plants are plants that have died and their remains have naturally broken down over time and gone back into the soil. Coal is an important energy source. People burn coal in order to create electricity for homes and to make energy to power machines and factories. People get coal and other important rocks, minerals, and metals by mining for them from the earth. One way to mine coal is by digging a mine shaft or tunnel deep down into the earth. Another sedimentary rock is called iron ore. Ore is a rock that contains valuable minerals or metals. There are many different types of ore in the world, but iron ore is one of the most important. Iron ore is the source of iron, a strong metal which is used to make steel. Steel, in turn, is used to build bridges, cars, buildings, tools, and other things that you see and use every day. Sandstone is one common type of sedimentary rock. Oh, did you make sure that you did your hand motions? I almost forgot. Wherever you find sandstone, there is a good chance that you are walking in a place that used to be completely underwater. What? At one time or another, every place on Earth has been completely submerged or covered in water. Wait, what? That's crazy. You're telling me that if I were to walk outside my house right now, one time, very long ago, it was underwater? That's crazy. Thus, sandstone is quite common throughout the world. This photo was taken in Bryce Canyon in the state of Utah, which is known for its unique sandstone formations. Wow, very cool. Here's another sandstone canyon I thought you would like to see. Antelope Canyon in Arizona is a very special place. It is known as a slot canyon, which is formed over many, many years as water from rain and floods rushes through the sandstone, causing it to erode. So the water comes through the rock and breaks off parts of the rock, okay? These cliffs are made of limestone, another type of sedimentary rock. Limestone is interesting because it is composed mainly of minerals left over from ancient sea creatures like clams, oysters, and other shellfish. When these creatures died, their shells sank down to the ocean floor and settled with the other sediments. Over time, the churning oceans ground the shells into a fine white powder. The fine white powder settled and more shells and sediments put pressure on it. It took many, many years, but eventually all the powdery shell leftovers were compressed into limestone. Okay, so pressure and time made those shells of sea creatures turn into sedimentary rock. Okay, so which two types of rocks have we learned about now? Do your hand motions with it. Igneous and sedimentary, okay? If limestone is subjected into intense pressure for even a longer period of time, it can turn into another kind of rock called marble. Marble is very hard, and it often has a beautiful, pure white color. People have used marble for thousands of years to make fine buildings and sculptures. Marble is known as metamorphic rock, which is the third and least common type of rock. Remember, whenever you hear metamorphic rock, you're going to hold out both of your hands and then clasp them tightly together. Metamorphic rock comes from the Greek word for transformation or change. Metamorphic rocks are formed when other types of rocks undergo intense heat and pressure and change or metamorph into new kinds of rock. So what is the third type of rock? Metamorphic rock, right? And it takes igneous and sedimentary rocks and makes them into a new type of rock. Who is that man? Who is that a statue of? Abraham Lincoln. We just learned about him. We learned about him in our Black History Month unit. That is the same statue that is in Washington, D.C. Congratulations! You are becoming a geologist. Now you know about 3 rock types: igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. Won't everyone be impressed when you tell them about the new words you learned? I think so. All right. Are heat, pressure, and time important to the formation of these rocks? Absolutely they are, right? Because heat is how we get igneous rocks, right? Because igneous rocks come from the cooling of the magma. Pressure and time make our sedimentary rocks. The pressure pushes those different layers of sediments, and then it takes time for that to happen. And then metamorphic is about the pressure and about the time too, and the heat even, okay? Let's see, what do we have here? Time for our comprehension questions and word work. But if you need to get a quick wiggle break out, go ahead and do that. All right. What are the 3 types of rocks? Show me your hand movements. We have igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic, okay? How are igneous rocks formed? Use that hand motion to help you remember what happens to these rocks. How are they formed? When we have our hand motion, it's like blowing out a fire. Fire makes me think heat. What about magma, which is hot, cooling and making rocks? That is how igneous rocks are formed. What about sedimentary rocks? Look at my hand motions. How are they telling me how sedimentary rocks are formed? Sediments, right? Those little pieces of rock and dust and dirt and sand, all those things are piling on top of each other. And when they pile on top of each other, the pressure is pushing them down. And that happens over time. And over time, all of those layers, they get squished together and they become sedimentary rock. What about metamorphic rock? How is metamorphic rock formed? When heat and pressure and change the igneous rock and the sedimentary rocks into new rocks. How are all 3 types of these rocks similar? How are they the same? Well, they're all found on Earth or in Earth. They are all formed over time. And they can all help us learn about the history of our Earth. How are they different? They're formed differently, right? Okay, word work. The read aloud said, sediments are always floating around in lakes, oceans, and rivers. Say the word sediments with me. Sediments. Good. Can you say it like a mouse? Sediments. What about in a robot voice? Sediments. Okay. Sediments are little tiny pieces of dirt or rock that are moved by wind, ice, water, or landslides. Okay. When you go swimming in a lake, your feet kick up sediments that are on the bottom of the lake. Where are some other places you might find sediments? What's the word we've been talking about? Sediments. I'm going to describe some objects. If I describe sediments, say, those are sediments. If I do not describe sediments, say, those are not sediments. I noticed tiny specks of dirt in my glass of water. Ew. Those are sediments, right? The ants crawled through the blades of grass. Those aren't sediments. The wind blew small bits of dust all over the car. Those are sediments. Dad cleaned the small grains of sand out of the bathtub. Those are sediments. The museum has large gemstones. Those aren't sediments. Okay. All right, let's make sure that we hit all of our learning targets. Did we talk about how heat, pressure, and time affect the Earth? Absolutely. Did we identify the 3 different types of rock? Yeah, we did. What were they? We had igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. Did we talk about the word sediments? Mm-hmm. And then you will use Nearpod to talk about the 3 types of rocks. Okay. I will see you next time. Bye.